Well, that might be helpful. It should be going live now. Well,
But
that's
I
all it'll
just
be
seen one
recorded.
waiting, and that could have been me. But
It should all be. You should be able to be in now. They probably missed all of that because I didn't have that extra clicked. Okay, but it'll be on the recording, and I will be uploading that, and we're at least all live at this point now. Should be. Hopefully.
all right.
Thank you
The
for that.
specifics, yeah, no worries, no worries. I didn't know if I had stuff wrong on my end or what. Um, let's see. What I have for Kentucky is we're going to have a meeting tomorrow night about the final inaugural meeting planning. It's going to be nailing down all the fine tuning and getting all the specifics worked out. As of right now, we have 9 total that have RSVP. 6 of those are papered up on Kentucky, and three are people that have either gone through Evangeline Grace status select and have paperwork in hand, or people that I have been corresponding with through email when they've come through by way of TASA. So got some newbies coming. I'm looking for more people than just 9 to come because not everybody would RSVP. Case in point, I just got a late RSVP tonight, so that will put us up to 10. All right, so we got a pretty good plan together. Joe's got a pretty good PowerPoint presentation, and then I think at the end of that we'll just have kind of like a Q&A session. The doors open at 12 o'clock for papered up people and 1 o'clock for people that are invites or invites. So, and then that's all I got pretty much from that aspect. And on recording secretary end, I just want to reiterate that we're here to paper up people to help them get recorded and published, but we're also here to manage and maintain the land recording office, which is us, the general public, the civilian American government's land jurisdiction recording office. So that said, that means that if you're in the process of an administrative process, or even if you're newly papered up and you've done your tax revocation letters, make sure and get with your recording secretary and get those published. So I'm going over this because we do have some new people on Kentucky that have been papered up and are going through that process. So I just want to put a reminder out there that if you are going through that, don't hesitate to reach out to us on Kentucky and of course on Indiana to make sure and get your green receipts or any kind of correspondence you get back from the entity you sent, so that we can get that published on the LRO for you.
And if I may, when you do send that information to your recording secretary, whether Indiana or Kentucky, send it in a PDF, not in a photo, and make sure that you're only getting the picture of that receipt or that green card, not taking a view of everything else in the background, because that has to be then cropped out, and then putting that into a document, it makes a bad copy. It doesn't always stretch bigger well. So we want to make sure that it's a clean copy for the public record for you. So you can always take it to the local library if you're not sure how, and give them the actual piece of paper to scan. Don't take a picture and then say, well, can you convert that to a PDF, and you still have your bedspread in the picture. So, I mean, not that it's not a nice bedspread, but that's not necessary for the public record.
Yeah, I like to tell people to, of course, make a copy of right before you put your stuff into the envelope. Make a copy of it, because then it's got all your autographs, your red thumbprints on it. If you put them on there, everything's on there. You've got a copy of it, and then when you start getting correspondences back, whether it's a green receipt But let's say it's been 2 weeks and you ain't got the green receipt. You go on the USPS.com and track it. Well, print that out, scan it all in as one PDF, as Christine said, and send that to me
Exactly.
recording.
Exactly. If you didn't get a green card, you can always go in and track it, and if it says delivered, take a screenshot of that and put it in a PDF and send that to your recording secretary as well. That works. Absolutely.
And so I've told people to e-verify me. So that's e-verify at AmericanStateNationals.us to e-verify me, and then just look at the examples I've got on there, because I have done I've done both Secretary of States, the state of state, and the U.S. corporation, my Council of Bureau of Council of Affairs, all that, trustee notice, all that. So if anybody needs an example, go on there. Go on to other assemblies like the Texas Assembly. They have a lot of good examples of their notice, trustee notice on there. But that's about all I've got. I'm just excited about this face-to-face meeting coming up, and I know a lot of people are.
Oh yes, I'm sure. Exciting, yes, that definitely.
Yeah.
Justin, even Christine is entertaining the idea of joining via Zoom for just a little while during the meeting, if she can. Yeah, I guess if she gets the link, and we'll see you on the screen if that's the case, if we're able to do that.
Yeah, if we're gonna do that, are you planning on bringing your laptop to do your PowerPoint?
I sent you guys the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I will bring my laptop, but I don't know who will be presenting that. Or will you be able to present that?
I would. That would tie up my laptop though. So if we're gonna try and do a Zoom meeting, then one of us could host the Zoom and record it from the Zoom, set the laptop up, and then the other one could do a PowerPoint or something like that.
Sure.
But we can work that out tomorrow night on the planning.
Sure.
See if somebody else maybe has a laptop. Keith may have one.
Yeah. And Christine and Justin, just for
whatever, if that doesn't work out, that's not a problem either. We can always do something, later on for another outreach as well. Because I can get kind of heavy in the.
And just for future reference, I'm really liking how these meetings are taking place. I know we're covering down on 3 different pillars, 2 in particular on one occasion, and then another. It's general and jural, and then general and militia, correct?
General and militia and jural and militia.
General militia, jural militia. Okay. Well, so that's great. And when Justin is able to join, if that's okay, Justin, after Christine provides her 30-minute read-in, if you would like to, cover down on with regards to Kentucky, just like you did, that would be great. And then at the same time, I can provide the peacekeeping aspect, which then, Christine, if you can then at this moment bring up the PKTF site, and then I'll go ahead and explain what you were successful with receiving 5 counties in agreement with what you mentioned to them.
Yes.
But anyway, I'll show what you're talking about, and then we can go into these questions, and you don't have to, of course, Christine or Justin or myself, even as coordinators before, or in the role of coordinators, I did quickly send you questions, but we can go over those. Not all together. You can answer them as concise, or you can elaborate as much as possible if you like, but we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so for the call, if you would, Christine, hover over states, or click states. Okay, and if you zoom in, maybe you don't have to zoom in, but so what's happening now is a verbal and this is a collaboration effort. This is a buy-in type of effort. It's not stringent, it's not highly technical or detailed, but essentially what Indiana has agreed to, if you click Indiana, you can go, or just before you click it, hover over. See how it's orange what that will be is green or a darker green, basically. But if you'll notice over the hover, it's emphasizing cooperation pending. Now, what Christine was able to confirm is she has received a consensus from majority counties to have Indiana's Assembly have the PKTF news site on their website. So if you click, go ahead and click then. And then on the Indiana Assembly somewhere, wherever Indiana's IT team
Oh, I got
or
to do
Christina,
that too.
whoever's,
Yeah.
will then find the space on their site that's either obvious or a keyword search. But anybody going to the Indiana Assembly inquiring for correcting their status, or anybody who has corrected their status, they will have a link describing or how to access the PKTF. There's nothing that needs to be a separate page or anything necessarily, but it will just help corroborate why, if anybody goes to the PKTF news site, they'll see the difference between pending cooperation or correspondence from one state versus another. In this case, Indiana will be green instead of orange, because their site will have, a link to the site, PKTF site. And again, the reason why we're going this extra mile, folks, is because the Peacekeeping Task Force had a rough, rocky start, approximately 13 months into its first version existence. So anybody who's privy to that or is concerned about that now and in the future, we want to go that extra mile to show that indeed the Peacekeeping Task Force is under welcomed scrutiny at all times to assure that our role and responsibility is to assure that all peacekeeping elements are operating properly, lawfully, peacefully, they're transparent. They endeavor to reach out to every aspect of every other peacekeeper out there around the world, even with regards to the American version of maintaining, upholding, keeping the peace. And that our continual building on our website will reflect that. But no utter transparency. That's what we're going for, okay? So we want everybody to be able to, especially through the coordinators, by virtue of meetings such as this, or reflecting, having the PKTF news site found on your website as well. That's really what we're going for, okay? So that's where that will go. Okay, you can back out and go. Okay, and you can go to FAQs. Okay, now this ties into where we're asking, and there's only 3 purposefully. We have dozens of questions that we can put, and we will put eventually, but we want to, again, have it to where anybody who does send us questions, we will provide those questions and the answers to those questions, along with the state who asked those questions, okay? This is just another extra step we would like to go for those who are providing, inquiry, and then, adding that extra emphasis on that colorful, dimensions to the effort. So if anybody has any questions, you can click any one of those 3, and you'll see where it'll open up. We want to attempt to answer every question possible, and the more questions, the better. Eventually, this page will grow to hundreds of questions, perhaps, and that's great. Eventually we'll place our search bar at the top portion of the site, like most websites have, and ultimately every question should be answered at some point. So if anybody, again, has any questions, you can send those to the link that Christina's provided, the link that on this site where you can. If you go to the bottom, you can see where you can correspond as well. You can message us directly or send us an email. You can see at the bottom left. Yep. And just keep those questions coming, and we'll answer them in this fashion. Okay. So thanks, Christine. And I know, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm trying to identify, or you can confirm what I'm identifying so far as your approach towards coordination. Now, you open up with articles that are either recent or things that you feel that have came around again, I guess.
For the general, yeah, of if the articles seemed like they were, because through the questions that I get throughout the week, of if it is relevant. And a lot of times, frankly, I also go to God in prayer and say, what is it that you want me to talk about tonight?
Well, I got to tell you, and I'm not just smoozing you here, but your presentation reminds me of when I was in college. It's got that feel or that delivery. So kind of like a college theater, you know, where the professor's down there and keeping your attention, keeping your attention well. So anyway, kudos for that. It's really great. But Justin and I both can share in what it has been to be a coordinator. And for me, it was great. It was one of the most interesting, compelling 10.5 months that I covered down for the Kentucky Assembly. Just a little backstory on that. Christine, you may be familiar with or recall Benjamin Hernandez, who was the Kentucky coordinator. Maybe not. But there was a coordinator before him, whether or not if you remember. And I think those were the first two Kentucky Assembly coordinators. And I just could not help enough. When I reached out to Benjamin, he corrected my first level, 1779. I just kept reaching out because I felt I had so much to offer him, and he couldn't tear away from he owned two small businesses, and he ran a very, very very small group of employees. And he ultimately moved back to the New England states, I believe New Jersey, where he was born. But yeah, those first 10.5 months, what I did, just really quickly, I went around to the other assemblies where I was able to listen to their recordings at General Assembly meetings, and as well going to the weekly recordings, coordinators call, back 2019, and it was just great. It was great. It seemed like a lot at first, but I settled into the model of the role of the coordinator. Also, I had phone conversations with, Paul in Wisconsin, and I think it was a couple of times.
You muted.
And others.
There you go.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, it was so anyway, to make a long story short, it was interesting. And the only reason why I stepped away is because I was called into the realm of peacekeeping. And nearly 25 years serving in the military, it was absolutely where I needed to be. And so that's where I was. That's where I am. And at first migrated into the role of sheriff, which is where I ultimately would like to be, maybe years down the road. But the peacekeeping task force was coming online at that time, and a director and two directors actually. And it quickly went from there to the Continental Marshal Service. And so one thing led to another, and I stayed within that realm. And then we were very fortunate to have Justin come on board with his prior military, I'm sure compelling him and keeping him focused. And so anyway, that's been my experience, and Justin can share his as well. But I also emailed you, Justin, these questions, and I apologize for the very short notice, Christine, about
They're
this.
packed.
But so again, since right now I know you have these calls and the recordings are nationwide, accessible nationwide. And again, I've heard from other folks from other states that admire your work. So again, kudos to you. But for the sake of the working relationship between these two neighboring states in particular, I wanted to offer you the opportunity to share your ongoing and seasoned perspective as state coordinator based on these questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, and again, as far as Kentucky's concerned, or any other assembly who finds themselves between coordination roles, hopefully they'll gain value out of this, and maybe somebody will step up and say, "Oh, well, based on 3 coordinators and one is seasoned beyond, I think I could probably do that." So, well, one of the questions I have it was asked to me it's just one of the top questions. So to you, Christine, how many hours on average do you spend each week as a state coordinator for Indiana?
roughly 10 to 15. And then that's just as, state coordinator. And then you got all the tech stuff
Right.
of dealing with the videos and technology aspect. But
So about 10 hours on average.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
that's
yeah.
yeah. We ran the numbers between quarter time and half time hours versus a full time 40-hour week obligation, which most people are used to. So that would break down to about 1.5 hours a day for 7 days. That's okay. Okay, that's great. Justin, I sent you that same spread of questions. Justin, did you have anything off of that, or
Yeah, I would just
anything?
like to go back to what you were saying a little bit earlier was about when I first came on to the coordinator position. I was really gung ho, and that's what I did was I was watching other assemblies as much as I could just to see how they ran their meetings, especially in the case of a vote or a motion to the floor. That was really intimidating, being able to handle that. But all of it, for lack of a better term, would be intimidating, and that's why it's great what's going on here with the discussion about how coordinators roll. But at first I was into it. I was doing about 3 hours a day, and that's with video research only. A lot more preparation goes into the preparing of the agenda, which is what Christine does so well, and puts that out in PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, and that comes from the
So-
creator. I listen.
Yeah. So, yeah, to answer your question, sorry for drawing it out. At first, it was about 3 to 4 hours a day. That's about how much road time I got traveling back and forth to work. So I was just, listening and taking mental notes and stuff like that. And then, so as time progressed, started my administrative process, got busy and busy and busier with other stuff. It's dropped down to about an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, and that's still with the same type research. So that's how I kind of run.
So for both of you, that was after you had came to terms with based on your many hours, days, weeks, months of education before. Okay, all right, great. Same with me. Same with me. Yeah, I was already convinced and was ready to participate after I would say 3 years of education beforehand. So
I do want to bring up again, this is about the coordinator role where Justin and I also are wearing recordings, and you did probably for a minute of recording secretary roles.
No, I didn't do that. That was one of my that's another one of my questions is other hats you may wear on top of that. So no, Christine, the only role I took on was that of coordinator. So before when I came on, there was no certainly no marshal at arms. The recording secretary role, I think you may have handled it. You or Gloria in Ohio as international recording.
I may have done
maybe,
some. Gloria may have done you.
Yeah. So Kentucky's grown quite a bit since then. It's been a while, but we've definitely settled in a lot of ways, especially that of the marshal at arms, which is one of the aspects of development Indiana's focused on right now. So we're going to get around to helping you with that. Justin has quite a bit on that. Okay, so the next question is, what weekly meetings are you invited to regarding Federation development? So what other, outside of your own meetings?
The weekly coordinator call for coordinators. Then of course there's the recording secretary. But really right now it's the coordinator calls.
And what value do you get out of those calls?
Well, that's where I get a temperature of what's going on the other states as well, as to if they're running into because little things will pop up that are recurring that will pop up across, so I pay attention to that, and if they're or if some are experiencing something that hasn't come yet, I can get a heads up to be prepared for that. And it's been interesting to see how they are handling things for their state. It's also at the same time, it's trying to separate out what part's recording secretary aspect within it as well, because many of the coordinators take on a recording secretary role as well. So,
Yes.
but it's also ensuring that the paperwork is land and soil jurisdiction. So a lot of times we've got to delve into the paperwork as well, because there are some like to make a slight subtle change. There's been some that that I've noticed that they've come from Evangeline, and there's been some slight alteration within the text, and it's like, I don't think she would have put that in the template. And so to find out that they had an electronic version, so they put their change up in. I'm like, no, you need to adjust. So a lot of times it's merging into that of trying to ensure that their paperwork is accurate as well, so that they are even qualified to be able to move to the next phase. So it to some extent we have to have some of that knowledge as well. So it's kind of trying to separate out some of that, when right now a major portion of it is making sure the paperwork is correct. My husband's always commenting, because he said, you have some people where they seem like they're really, difficult to try and get them through the phases and everything. And I said, well, just remember, they're not assembly members yet.
Well, do you have separate recording secretaries?
Right now is me.
Okay, so that makes it considerably more difficult.
Right.
I think
there
Justin
has been other recording secretaries with me along the way, but then they've ended up, their life, picked up. They weren't able to work with it. So.
Well, what I've noticed in other meetings, again, just a bit of optimism here, but a lot of folks, they take a break from the assembly because it's overwhelming to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
They've already came to terms and made it a considerable life change that it takes a few seasons to even consider what that is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when they step away, they come back several months later and they're absolutely completely vitalized.
Oh yes, you can definitely see it in the communications, because I'll have where all of a sudden they'll just stop for a few weeks, even a few months, but then when they come back, it's how their email is that I know, they've taken a deep dive, and so now they're ready, they're moving to that next level. It may not be jumping into anything yet, but they're at least making that next step. Go ahead.
If I may, on that point, that's what I'm hoping this merge with Indiana will do, is kind of bring back some of our state citizenry to be able to want to get back into the assembly and have meetings and just discuss things. Mm-hmm. So because we do have some state citizens that are just like you said, Joe, and I love the way you put that. Is it's just, this is a seasonal thing, and it's the way they've got us up against the wall and having to choose our battles, so to speak, until we can get state citizens and statesmen and stateswomen of each state noticed and recognized by the de facto to where we can operate and not have to find the cheese so much, then that's going to be a big key to getting more people involved. But yeah, I love that's one of my big good points about this merge, is hopefully bringing back some of Kentucky's state citizenry and also Indiana.
Yeah, and the coordinator role, I mean, the fact that it sundowns eventually really helps with embracing the idea, because again, the more successful coordination efforts that take place, the less and less the coordinator actually has to take on. They just have to get past that hurdle of having people step up. So it's a really interesting and rewarding, for me anyway, as having served in that role. And if I wouldn't have taken on peacekeeping roles, I would most likely still be there as a coordinator. If not for the state co-coordination through my county, as a county and state, Mm-hmm. Okay. So next question, how much value do you receive by collaborating with other state coordinators? Justin's don't count, Justin, because this is, I mean, you can add him too, but I mean, do you speak with other coordinators on the state level?
Yeah, well, I do have a lot of that interaction because of also being regional coordinator, Federation recording secretary, so I am able to connect with the other coordinators, and we do. Again, it's that it's interesting to see how other people are handling it on their states, as well as there are a lot of states that are still in that they just don't talk.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that are, it's like you can tell that they're the ones that are blazing forward, and they're right there, any questions, they're right there ready to help with, and they're putting themselves out there, making themselves visible, and that's been great to be able to easily locate them as well,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to connect. So that's been huge. And because of that, we've been able to build that connection that they also know, there's going to be truth coming from my end, as well as I expect truth from them too. And so it always, we end up, the conversations end up expanding and growing as opposed to stifling out. So I've been very grateful for those opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Now, I do recall, largely my experience as coordinator was with email correspondence and then providing the agenda along with video conferencing. So email correspondence, follow-up email correspondence of the same, and phone calls. That seemed to be more time consuming, but I always narrowed it down with, we'll see you on the call if you can make, in the recordings and all those things, which narrowed down that preoccupation. But what's the highest, but overall, unless those are the main points, email, phone call conversations, video conferencing, what's the highest level of workload for you when dealing with people from, the state inquiring about status correction? Is it, long drawn out questions, confusing situations, heartstrings tugging at you,
Some are still coming in where some of the confusion, because they've come from other groups. Some, you can tell, literally are saying they've just are really realized what's even going on, which that is far less than what it was when I first started. So that's a great sign there. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe if you could rephrase the question so I can. Oh, if there are other roles that are heavier, or at least add to it, right? Mainly is the.
Well, what would preoccupy you more than what you already know to be the role of state coordinator? And state coordination is, helping people to find their place in their assemblies and encouraging them to take on roles that helps further the assembly. What's the most peculiar, I guess, or on average, the most time consuming? And questions are, you have people who are upset and they're running scared and they have many several issues that they're trying to work out, and they think they're educated on how to, and then at the same time they're asking you how to help, provide a sanctuary setting, kind of, I've dealt with those in the past. I've heard about those. They're very rare. Most people I know coming in with no issues, except they're just tired of the well, they want to actually, in my experience, they want to help. They actually want to participate, but they also want to learn. So they want to listen intently and then gradually move into assisting on some level. And of course, maintaining the peace, but.
Right.
I think, if I may, I think part of where my time goes is just what you said, is that the outreach part of it, responding to inquiries, emails like through TASA, or some people are more efficient than others without being demeaning to anyone. It's just the way it is. But they're able to find their own way of producing their own paperwork and coming to us already ready, saying, "Hey, I need to get my stuff recorded." And then, of course, Status Select, Evangelina, uh, she sends me an email every time that a Kentuckian, she sends them their packet. And so I'm tracking right now, not to disclose any personal information, I'm tracking 4 of those packets, get 4 of those alerts, and that's been a month now. So I'm kind of wondering, is it I'm going through and got the paperwork to see where I'm going with it? Or are they going somewhere else, taking that paperwork somewhere else? Some of these
Right.
consulting firms that are out there, charging $500 to do it and stuff. So
Yeah, I've
that's
noticed
kind of
that there are some as well that,
yeah,
and they'll put that there's even some that will have, because she gives them a choice for notary or assembly recording secretary. And there are some that they'll put assembly recording secretary, and then I still don't see them.
right,
And it's like, I
yeah.
hope you're not getting a notary to do it, and then
So
so
yeah, most
So are you
most of the
saying
time,
are you saying you suspect that? I mean, I could see that as a possibility. People setting up with an entrepreneur mindset, taking the paperwork and then trying to set up a side firm.
it's happened.
Ultimately, it still corrects their status, but
Yeah,
but
it's happened.
well,
You've got a
but
tendency.
if they're finding a way to get it put on a public record, yes, then they're supporting their status correction. It doesn't help with the assemblies to be able to
right.
ensure that
Sure.
we're
Exactly.
supporting that state national correctly, because we don't even know.
Well, that's what
Right.
gives us
Yeah.
our standing, correct? That's what I'm getting at. That's what gives us our standing is the fact that we hold 2 copies, supposed to be 3 when our courts get up, but 2 copies. That's how we maintain the land
It's
recording
the
office
paper, the
for
record,
the state.
the
That's what
physical
gives us our
record.
general jurisdiction,
Mm-hmm.
our standing, and our standing is that every people or man or woman has done the same type paperwork, whether it be 1779 or 928. But that's what gives us our standing. And people going to the consulting firms, they're just strictly, I won't be derogatory, but they're kind of acting the part. They're state nationals, right? But they're real. They're only really published on the C jurisdiction.
Well, and it's
And I
also
think
back to, because my concern with which I ended up offering here for Indiana of doing the document prep service, but it's because they're paying someone else to do the documents, they're whipping out the paperwork and thinking, well, they're all done, and it's like they
right.
have no idea even what's in there, um, or may even have a vague idea, if that. And some don't even realize that they're supposed to follow through with canceling voter registration, cancel IRS. And so a lot of times, that's why because I'm not sure what other information they get from Evangeline other than we do get the notification that one of our nationals or one of our state people were there. But I don't know if what else she does. I don't know, other than it's contact. You can go to contact us, because I've seen I get a lot of emails where they've gone through her website contacting Indiana Assembly. Some even from other states as
Do you
well.
remember? Do you remember the time
Losing you.
when one of the
I don't know if
Cutting
it's
out.
me. Oh,
recent articles where the formal URL for remember that? Well, that's a consulting firm. That's what I'm talking about, and they're charging people like $500 to do their paperwork, consult them through their tax verification and how to self-govern. They're kind of supposedly teaching them how to self-govern, and that's where I'm wondering how we can come up with kind of special type outreach to those to make sure that they're aware of us? Because maybe, maybe they're not aware of the assembly, and the consulting firm is who's put them onto Evangeline and Grace. You know, or is that maybe I'm way off in left field, Christine? You tell me. You know more. You more, way more. Because if they're putting Kentucky Assembly Recording Secretary notary blocks on it, then they got to be aware of something in that aspect. So it's just a thought that I had. I know that it's out there. I know that the Assembly's proprietary information is being used to further people's what they think is entrepreneurial, fame.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
those
what's
are, in
sad
my
is
opinion,
that
I'm just saying, those who are taking advantage of the situation, they're only going to get away with that for so long. And those who they've overcharged in excess, providing unnecessary services such as that, $500, good grief, that's crazy.
well, it all
They're
catch
eventually
up
going to find the
eventually.
assembly. Yeah, they're going to find the assembly and kind of lick their wounds and say, well, I should have done my due diligence and found the actual assembly first and the actual recorders. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And what's concerning is, you know, again, if you're wanting, the whole process is also to try and help get them to the assembly as well. It's a two-step. It's not just status correction. It's also then get to the assembly. Even if you're not going to do a lot of the active participation, get to the assembly, because at least then you have some form of a shielding to be able to support you through this while you're still out there, albeit you're on the land, but you don't have that extra that you would have with the assembly of learning, what are the correct terms, how to walk correctly, being that
Well, everybody's always
accountability with each other on correcting your language. Go ahead.
everybody's always out there about exercising your rights. Well, that's one of our First Amendment rights, is the right to peacefully and assemble without threat or. So exercise your right, people.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Be willing to
Well,
stand up.
Well, Christine, I've noticed again. If you've known me by now, especially currently, I'm a big fan of local government, and I'm growing more and more educated on how they operate. And I gotta say, what the Indiana Assembly provides is the better parts of what local government for Kentucky offers. So, for example, it would be electors that are in meetings. Okay, electors, a special guest as well, and there's also an opportunity, either 10% through their meetings or at the end or both, where citizen discussion is given the opportunity, and usually it's at the end. Of course, they're always at the end. So I'm curious, are the Indiana citizens? I'm sure they're busy, but like we all are, but are they either on the call, on the chat, and of course I know they're invited, but
I don't have, of course it may have been delayed with getting into the YouTube here, but I don't have anybody in the call right now from other than
yeah,
myself.
right. Well, even that as minutes or at audio video recording is again above and beyond even what local current de facto government offers, and you do so you're on par and definitely a cut above them. But I was just wondering, I noticed the General Assembly meetings aren't crowded as of yet. I'm sure they will once you have our version of magistrates, that being actual electors, and
I am
chair
still
people.
running into issues with different email service providers. A lot of the free email services are bouncing the emails, so a lot of people aren't even getting the emails. I'm trying to figure out ways to be able to get past that.
Okay. Well, I mean, with the access to the recordings and those who've corrected their status, or those who may even be considering it, or those who may accidentally stumble across your broadcasts, your replays, It's just really, really great. Seems very flexible. It gives plenty of ample room for reflection, for adding to their learning curve, lessening their learning curve, and it also gives them an opportunity at a distance to consider joining their assembly, even as an estate, even if they are a state national,
Hmm.
to join with their committees.
Hmm.
Because I don't know how this is even people are aware, but even as an American state national, you can freely volunteer to join your committee. You don't have to be elected to join a committee. You would have to be elected to operate a committee, to chair that committee, but to be a working force within any given committee, American state nationals and American state citizens can do that. So, and there's no need for these kinds of meetings. They have their own meetings.
Which I did
So anyway,
also set up for these and forward meetings of where there's two rooms separated out, one for Indianians and one for Kentuckians. So for those times that we did want to separate out, it's already set up for us to be able to do that. However, Justin, somebody on Kentucky side in that room would have to record because I wouldn't be in that room. So you would have to make sure to get that recording. So I'll make sure when we go to do that, we have to make sure you're as a host, co-host within there, so you can do that.
Yeah, I'll be on board with that. I think whenever we both get time, we should get together and maybe work. You probably got it. Maybe it's the better wording would be get the time. Maybe you can give me the rundown on what you need me to do as far as the martial at arms position. How do I monitor chat? Stuff like that.
Ooh,
Maybe
yeah, I can start.
maybe yeah. Like for the YouTube streaming and stuff like that. It's if I could lessen the burden for you to
Oh,
have to worry about all that, then
oh
I'll be
yeah,
more willing to do that. So
absolutely.
oh,
so
Exciting.
that was yeah.
you're gonna get the goods here, Christine.
Well, that's that's
Napkins.
that's the role. That's the decorum. That's keeping decorum in
Hmm.
the 21st century role. I mean, and that's what a 21st century martial arms is going to do. That's what the neat thing about what we're doing is if you want to go to a happy place. Sometimes Alan talks about going to a happy place. Mine's kind of going back in time and seeing what my great great grandfather, how they were living,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
sometimes when I get an ache, I don't run right to the cabinet and get an ibuprofen. Like
Right.
what would great granddad do? He, you know what I mean? Just take I look at it from their viewpoint and then come back to the future in our time and what resources can we use now type thing. But
Okay,
that's kind
so
of
let's
rambling. But yeah,
definitely get together
yeah,
and let's
yeah.
work that, how we can work that through. And another thing, because I was on a call with Illinois, and I was actually able to get free conference call to work.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
maybe we
definitely.
can also
Let's set
be
that.
able
Let's
to include that to be able to get more people in the, for other calls to be able to support too.
yeah.
Now,
Which
Christine
Joe
doesn't
knows I've
doesn't
been trying to get free conference call to work.
doesn't Indiana? Isn't it Mike? Mike's his name. I think he's still considering being the Indiana Marshal, state elected Marshal at Arms. Isn't that correct?
Tom,
Tom, yeah.
I haven't heard any more from him since he's been on that last call with us. I'm not sure. He did respond and gave his choice in this for adding to the peacekeepers
Okay.
news. So, but other than I'm not quite sure. It could be work picked up right now or something. I'm not sure
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, and again, in exchange, because what we're experiencing is three we're converging in three different aspects. How a state assembly is without official coordination, was suitable with the contingency, and that would be a marshal at arms.
Hmm.
Where Indiana, you would definitely, that would be the very next role that you would want to have as a state elected marshal at arms to cover down. So Justin has many perspectives with that. He's seasoned with not only that, but also as coordinator. So you can see it can be done even by you, Christine.
Right.
The thing is, it's a state elected role, and then it's couched within a certain realm within the assemblies, and then it just branches out beautifully from there.
Mm-hmm.
So if Tom does decide to step up, and I'm sure Tom would also frequent the nationwide martial arms call every 2 weeks, along with Justin. So they also have
I'm
that
pretty
same.
sure he does go back through the video recordings too, so I'm sure he'll
Yeah.
get this.
Yeah. So what I'll do is what I'm here for. My main capacity is there peacekeeping, and reflecting and trying to get the word out more. Repetitive is the marketing edge around the peacekeeping task force and what it recognizes, what its charter is, where it came from, what's its influence, what's its assurances and guarantees. So we do recognize the martial arms role. We recognize all of the 5 main peacekeeping entities. And with this recording today, through your efforts, you've shown how we're attempting to receive that warm handshake with all participating state assemblies. And then anybody who is on the Indiana Assembly would like to go there, by all means go there. Questions, answers, continue to go back through. Also at the bottom, there's a separate blog spot. It's a blog station for sub articles that are there. The site is still growing. So again, once more and more people become more comfortable with the fact that there is peacekeeping, and the martial arms is the top within the assembly, but it's just in general, peacekeeping in general, more people, I believe, will come to the assemblies new, and those who have been within the assemblies will return with that extra bit of comfort knowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know I know you keep the meetings at 9, so I'll stop, or 90 minutes, so I'll stop and go ahead, Justin. I'm sorry to be taking over so much of the call here.
No, go ahead.
I just want to just reiterate, Christine. Let's get together. You kind of give me a tutorial on YouTube if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's another thing. That's what I want to say.
Because that would be great for me. Because we went that whole part not having it clicked in. That had I been able to know earlier, but the recording is still there. We'll be right.
I'm sorry my lighting is so bad. You guys know I'm on the road and my lighting is terrible. terrible.
Just be safe.
I'd much rather be at home sitting in my little office with my fancier lights. Sorry about that.
I'm outside, so I'm trying to hide the light too. But no, that's why I offered too. It's somebody mentioned work. He might be busy with work. I think with winter coming on and the time change getting ready to happen, me personally, that's going to slow me down and give me more opportunity to be available for Monday nights for sure. And so I'm trying to change my schedule for Monday nights, do the assembly thing at least until we get more participation on Kentucky, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna commit to Monday nights, and then maybe one Tuesday at the end of the month for a Kentucky General Assembly meeting for our committees to be able to give reports and stuff like that. So
okay, sounds great.
Let's get together and we'll get that worked out. So sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, with free conference call, we could be able to open up to do more things. That because they didn't have the background check and member agreement for here. At least be able to then go into free conference call to be able to do some more outreach from that aspect, and more can be able to get on the call that way as well.
Okay, sweet. Thank you for looking into that.
I don't think I can do free conference call at the same time of doing Zoom and the others yet. I don't know for sure yet, because I just on Saturday, I think it was, or Wednesday, was able to get free conference call to even work. It hasn't worked on my computer for well over a year. Every time I would try and get in, it just wouldn't connect. So it finally something happened.
We tried that last month and was having issues, but Christine's in. But yeah, free conference call is what we utilize. Cutler and Marshall utilizes it 100%. But we get
that extra, because I really don't want to do solely YouTube, as that for that extra space. But free conference call, we could be able to bring more forward and give more of general outreach knowledge through that aspect too. Yeah.
I'm down.
Awesome. It's
Christine,
happening.
I'll hold the rest of these questions, but the intent was to gain a better perspective of a more seasoned coordinator amongst the three of us, so that it'll help garner more interest, for Kentucky or for anybody else who catches this recording and also has struggled with coordination.
So we can continue next week with more of the same questions to help keep,
Sure.
if that would help.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. All right. Anything else we want to?
No, that's it. That's it for me, Christine,
That's
for peacekeeping.
Awesome. And so we've got great news. Indiana has accepted peacekeeping, joining with Peacekeeping Task Force News. So my assignment is making sure I get the link up then this week onto the Assembly website, so we have that ready. And
Right, and what you'll see is that hover color code will change from orange to dark green.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll also provide a description underneath the site, the page there for states, describing what were our fullest intention there. And
Awesome.
hopefully all of the state assemblies will have websites, a web presence, and just as we go, slowly but surely. Yeah, I mean, Kentucky will be next, pitching the same opportunity. So.
Awesome.
I just can't ask you, what do you need from us? I didn't know you did.
Well, Christine, can you describe what you understand, what you pitched to you?
What I did was send out an email to those that are papered up, armored up on Indiana, and gave them the choice and saying we have the opportunity for the Peacekeeper Task Force Peacekeeper news, and be able to, when there's, actually I can pull up the email and share it, but I won't get it. But anyway, I did an email.
To be listed on your website.
Right.
Is the first main step. Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And then and I gave them, because I put it right out that week. I started it out and then gave them until the 30th to present with a reply for yes or no.
And with that effort, it's the first step moving forward to because again, we're already obligated to provide those evaluation aspects, subsequent training aspects, and coordination aspects for the peacekeepers. So what that means is, the broader aspect of that is, when your state has continental marshals there to help facilitate your county sheriffs, and your assembly militia gaining aspects of with a broad spectrum of what a community offers. Community means people, so that's the people, and to help those of their preparedness teams, first responders teams, and those who would defend their county and their state in the proper manner. The Peacekeeping Task Force is there to assure that all entities are aware of these efforts and that they're lawful and they're peaceful. And so that's the promise from the Peacekeeping Task Force. So when our site is illustrated on each state assembly's website, that's that warm handshake we're asking for at this time. And then the rest speaks for itself.
And so does that get us on your website highlighted like you just mentioned, from orange to green?
Yeah, from orange to dark green. Yeah. And
then when they hover over the state, the web address pops up?
Yeah, it's already there. All we're asking, we've confirmed that the 20 or so, roughly half of the states have a web presence. But there's no indication on there that we can determine where they've recognized that the Peacekeeping Task Force actually has a website.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Well, we do our own WordPress, so that would be pretty easy.
Right.
So, all right then. I got you.
Yeah. And in the bottom section.
Here's the page.
Yep. Right.
And for cool. Indiana, we'll change cooperation pending from that orange to a green. So your
Yeah.
Kentucky would.
Darker green. Yeah, I got you. Pretty cool setup, man.
Right?
Thank
Exciting.
Well, thanks, guys.
All right, we got
Thank
steps
you.
for moving forward. Okay, so now next week. Okay, so got to make sure we adjourn with our dates. Okay, so next week, October the 9th, that is for Jural Assembly and Militia, and we'll re-adjourn for the General Assembly and Militia on the 16th. Okay.
Okay,
And
great.
just a reminder, this is a month that has 5 Mondays, so we're not going to meet on the 30th. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Peace and love. See you on the
Thank
next
you.
call. Take care.
All
Thanks,
right.
Christine. Thanks, Justin. See ya.
Peace.
Recording stopped.